Whew. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Dropping frames, dropping frames. Maybe that. What, you want to update while I'm streaming? I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna update while I'm streaming. That seems like a bad idea. Yes, everybody come watch as I update my computer. Live on stream. It's fine, it's fine. Turn up volume a little bit. That's looking good. Adjust you a little bit. That's looking good. Put this up. That's looking good. Other than the internet issues, I am looking good. Probably going to turn down my bitrate after this stream, yeah. I don't think I can handle the new bitrate on the inconsistency of my internet. It does seem like it's going to be one of those nights. Okay. Yeah. Just looking at my stuff here. The, Ooh. Ooh. That's not good. Why is it doing that? Yeah. Very strange, very strange. Move that out of the way. I do think my internet hates me tonight. We're gonna try. We are going to try. But it might not turn out well. So I'm gonna start recording as well. Let's do that. See how that looks. Not really pushing the CPU, that's good. Hey there, hi there. Hyde here. And as you can see, we're doing fishing Hyde today. Because we are fishing today. I feel like Death Road's a fun game, right? Don't get me wrong, I love Death Road. Death Road to Canada is a great game. I do not have any fish for sale. Did I say I was going to buy a boat? I think I said I was going to buy a boat. Yeah, I love Death Road to Canada, but it's not really a game that I feel comfortable streaming. It's too fast-paced for me, you know? Yes, we will buy the boat. And we will get some bait as well. I think we need some. I got a lot of things to potentially talk about tonight. Largely because, well, Death Road really didn't give me an opportunity to talk about them too much. And I think the format of these fishing streams, these ChatterBait streams, are a little bit easier for that. Yeah. Hello, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Somehow found the hidden live stream. They're all hidden, you know. I stopped announcing these on Twitter, and I've barely even touched the Discord that I made. Eventually I'll do something with that. I've got plans, you know, and I'm gonna try and put those in the works. It's been a week. Spring is almost here. The weather is changing. Very consistent in my schedule. You know, I almost didn't put out... Oh, you mean my stream schedule? Yes, yes. I do try to be here on time. Every Monday morning, I guess it is. I was getting snagged a lot in that last place, so we're not going back there. We're gonna go to the Rocky River. I think that's where we're going today. Nice and easy water for us, yeah. In real life, it's almost spring, so you know. Oh yeah, lovely weather. It's just like in real life. In real life, it's almost spring, so I may end up going fishing as well. In real life, I do like doing that. That's going to be happening soon, probably. Maybe, if I feel up to it. I feel like playing all of these fishing simulator games, all of these streams throughout the year. I've kept a little bit more of my fishing knowledge than I usually do, right? Like, I usually have to relearn how to tie my fishing lines, my lures, my rigs, the leaders, the lures themselves, the hooks, things like that. I have to relearn that every single year. But playing this game every week or so, I feel like I've actually kept some of that knowledge fresher in my brain, which is a good thing, I think. It means I'll have to relearn less. For example, I can look at the water and I can say, there's probably a fish there because of this little run or something, which is information that I usually don't think about in my day-to-day. it, it's strange, right? I think I'm getting a bit of lag here on my capture card. Yeah, input delay. I'll have to check that too. Anyway, yeah. I was thinking about not streaming today. I actually have a lot to do this month, and I want to make sure I get it all done. Time is of the essence. Like, I always forget after the holidays, when spring rolls around, things get busy for me. There are a lot of things to be done, and not just fun things, you know, but a lot of fun things as well. I do enjoy most of my springtime things. I like it a lot more than wintertime things, right? Like in the winter, I pretty much stay cooped up, and I don't go outside because I hate the cold. When spring rolls around and the sun starts shining, I start to feel a lot better. Yeah. I don't think it's like, it's not seasonal affective disorder or anything. That's a um, very real thing. It's nothing to that degree, it's just I don't like the cold. So I have work to catch up on, especially after the holidays, even 3 months out. I still have a lot to do. Yeah, there is a little bit of delay. It's very strange. I wonder what's causing that. I'll have to look into that too. um, I almost didn't stream today, yeah. Yeah. So the comment on consistency, gonna have to throw that right out the door. In fact, I haven't really been recording either. Like, I haven't had... Yeah, yeah. We got some delay here. I'm gonna have to change those settings somewhere. Um, I haven't felt like recording. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see, I'm just testing the delay here. It's pretty bad. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm okay. It's just, I've not been feeling the content creation motivation, you know? Hopefully I'll get back in the groove of things. I have plans for new kinds of content, which I will hopefully feel excited about. Yeah. I think so. I have one half scripted. Yeah. I have one half scripted. I have most of its second sermon scripted. I have a lot of things on the move, but I haven't really focused in on any one of them yet. So I don't know what's going to come out next. When I get to feeling like this, where nothing feels right when you're making it, I imagine a lot of people feel like that when they make things, where they're not happy with what they're making, and they feel like there needs to be some changes. And I've been thinking about that. Baking? I don't know, like, hand cams seem very iffy for me. I I don't think I'll ever do a hand cam. I might do more baking like the American ohagi kind of thing, where you see the steps and less so my hands. I don't think that's really what most people want when they click on a baking channel. They probably want to see hands, right? Everybody has to be a hand model. And I'm not a hand model. I do wish to hide my hands. I have nitrile gloves, so I could do it. But then you'd see how... my hands aren't tiny, but they're small hands, so... Yeah, that's something to be considered. What was I talking about? Right, new kinds of content. I got a lot of things on the move. Thank you for the hearts. And I've got a lot of new kinds of content, less gaming focused. I'm trying to make less gaming focused content. I used to do that a lot back in the old days, right? I did readings, I did public domain works such as H.P. Lovecraft. I did green text. I did I did a lot more real world stuff with like the nature shorts. I want to do more of those, and I think I have some ideas for those as well. I do have a lot of ideas for non-gaming content, which I think will kick me out of this rut that I'm currently in. And then hopefully we can get some more consistent content. Although, it's strange, right? It's easy to make a reaction to a video game and to put that out on my channel. I do maybe 30 minutes of editing on a 10-minute video, and I can upload that pretty much the same day. So it's very easy to fall back on that kind of content. But I feel like it's insubstantial, and as much as I enjoy experiencing different games, I don't know if these short indie games are really giving me enough novelty. Um, should I talk more about my goals as a streamer? Initially, I got into this hobby because I felt bad playing too many games per day, a couple of hours of gaming per day. So I started recording my Backpack Hero runs and uploading them. Then I started having more fun by giving myself self-imposed challenges. And eventually I got in my head to try and narrate, try to give some commentary. I've never done anything like that in my life before. I've never made online content of, well, I've done artwork, if you can call it that. But that's about it. That was the extent of my online, presence for this. So it's all been very novel, and I've learned a lot of things, and I really enjoy learning things, right? And in some sense, I see this as a sort of way to push me out into the world, which I need to do. I feel a need to do that, right? Sometimes it's tough, right? Sometimes it's very tough to take myself out of the comfort of my self-imposed isolation, because I really enjoy it. It is very comfortable, just in my isolation. But at the same time, like, I realize that's not good for me in the long run, right? That's not good for me in the long run. I should probably keep interacting with people as much as I can. Very harsh. Sometimes nice. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. But, like, the comfortable isolation. I'm just one of those people that would rather stay home and, not watch television, because I don't do too much of that. But stay home and, not interact with people. World is often a bit harsh. Oh, I'm sorry I missed that. Yeah, well, I don't know if the world's harsh. I don't think it is. I think the world is just very uncaring, right? And when the world is uncaring, that leaves it all on your shoulders to be caring, if you want to be caring. Or if it's on your shoulders to deny caring if you want. So I don't know. I think I'm not getting the novelty that I want out of the content that I'm currently creating. And I've been considering a lot recently. Well, maybe it's not really worth it anymore. Maybe I should stop if I'm not feeling up to it anymore. If I feel like I'm not getting what I want out of it. I do like making content for people, and I like when people enjoy my content. But at the same time, I have to think about myself as well, you know? Initially, other people were, like, incidental to my content creation. Initially, they were just like, oh, I'm gonna upload these things, and I can maybe trick myself into thinking that I was productive because I made a video on it, and I uploaded it, and now there's a record of it permanently in the sea of YouTube. And that grew into, well, you know what? If people like hearing voices, maybe I can help some people, maybe I can keep them company, maybe I can distract them for a little bit. And then it grew into, well, I'm much more focused on people than I used to be. Which is both good and it takes me outside of my comfort zone. I very much enjoy my isolation. I don't see that changing anytime in the future. I have routines and I like them. They don't cause me any trouble. But if you look at my earliest voice content out there, my first stream with my original model, you'll hear my voice sounds very different. And that was the result of me isolating myself for a period of several years with very minimal outside contact. And now, you'd never believe it, I almost sound like a normal human. I sound like I did back in high school, back in early college days, when I was still interacting with people because I had to. So, this is really my point of contact with the rest of the world. This little YouTube channel is my interaction with the world. So I think it's important to do it. I'm happy if you think so. I'm not one of those people that hate my voice. Like, a lot of people who make content can't stand listening to their voice, and then they end up not editing their content because they can't. Luckily, I'm not that kind of person. I don't hate my voice, I don't particularly like it. It's just there. It's just there for me. But I can understand if people do enjoy it. It's not entirely monotonous, but it doesn't really have much range either. So, I've heard that it's calming before, I've heard that it's soothing. I've heard all kinds of nice things, and I do appreciate all of them, but praise and criticism do not mean much to me. That's just how it works. So yeah. Rather than give up on this, I feel like what I want to do is keep trying new things and get the most out of this hobby that I can, right? I feel like that would be the best thing for me. Would be good at guided meditations. I did want to do that. Several months ago, I was doing a nature short recording. And I never released it, but it's still there. Several months ago, I was doing a nature short recording, and it was about guided meditation. Only it was a joke. It wasn't a serious one. But I was thinking about that. And yeah, I think that would be a good idea. That might be part of what I try to do. Other things would be like, when I first made id, I thought id would be my way of doing essay-style content here on YouTube. Hyde could play the games, Jekyll could play the games. They could have a nice rapport back and forth with one another in some games. But id was supposed to be my commentary persona. And instead, he's playing games himself. So I'm not using id as I intended to use him. He's really supposed to be reporting about the good word of Aegis. And the way I set up the word of Aegis is that every word is Aegis's word. That way I could talk about any written thing, any voiced thing. That was the idea behind it. And I haven't done it. Not yet. But I'm gonna. As I said, I've already started scripting for that. It doesn't follow the rules. It is his own beast, you know? A lot of VTubers and PNG tubers and streamers, they make their own personas, right? They start out with their own persona. I didn't really do that. When I started out, I didn't know if I would even enjoy making content or streaming. I was doing it mostly to, you know, stop those feelings that I was wasting my time. And I didn't put much thought into it. I said, okay, your account is Hyde. You're Hyde. Public domain character. You have an established character. You don't have to think about anything, just be Hyde. And I could be Hyde. Except, I wasn't. And then I made Jekyll, which would be my Hyde. A less restrained, freer version of myself. Because Jekyll is ultimately a part of myself. He takes the dreams, but he's still there. But that's still within the confines of the established lore of Jekyll and Hyde, just swapped, I guess. And id was my first personal creation, my first character. In a way, if I hadn't been Jekyll or Hyde, I think I would have been id from the very get-go. And it would have this voice, and it would be myself. Just a little bit, just a little bit more emotionally warm, perhaps, a little bit more naive. It's a very naive character, but that's because he was born at a very young age. I don't know. I think it would have been very different. Hmm. Yeah. It's hard to say. In the very near future, I wanted to start the stream with this. I kind of got sidetracked talking about my thoughts on, myself, I guess, my channel. But I wanted to start the stream by saying there is a game that is releasing. I know I was talking about not playing games, but think of this as bonus content, because it's probably going to be off my usual schedule. There's a game releasing tomorrow. It's called Centrum. It's a new point-and-click game, and one of the draws is that you don't know what's happening. No one knows what's happening in that game. Like, there's a computer terminal, it's a point-and-click thing with beautiful pixel art. Like, the pixel art's beautiful. But you have no idea what's going on. And apparently your choices affect the story. So I think there's a strong, you know, narrative element to it. And it's more than just a visual novel. What you do seems to affect what happens in the game later down the line. And I've got some theories just based on the demo, but I've been following this game for a month or two now, just eyeing it, thinking to myself, do I want to play that? Like, if I get it, it's going to be on the Nintendo Switch, because that's just the easiest for me. Not having it on my CPU and GPU. Not overtaxing them would be for the best for my stream quality. So I do have to make that consideration. I don't think it's going to be great. on Nintendo Switch, but I do like the look of the game, and it releases tomorrow, so maybe after release I will play it. That's right, there might be an extra stream this week, maybe an extra couple streams, I don't know. But I do want to play it, and if I do get it, I will be streaming it. The streams are going to be a little bit different from my usual Sunday streams. Probably less interaction, a lot less interaction. I'll just be reading the game, maybe making a few comments. Mostly just playing and enjoying. Yes. I'm glad if you think so. But I think that's probably going to help me feel less burned out on this whole content creation stuff. Just a stream where it's okay for me to just read the game and not feel like I'm compelled to talk every single second of the stream. Like, I know. No one actually cares about dead air. Only I care about it. But I do. I do care about it. So I try not to have it. I've been looking forward to it, though. It looks to be a game about artificial intelligence, which is apparently more controversial than ever. I didn't realize this. Instead of, like, becoming more ubiquitous and commonplace, and people not caring as much about AI, it seems like it's even more controversial than ever. And people have more dangerous fears than ever. And I think that's what this game is. I think there are going to be a lot of parallels to the Amazing Digital Circus, with much less color and much more violence, I think. So I'm really looking forward to the story. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays. There was a demo released during the Next Fest, right? During the Steam Next Fest. And I was struggling to find... I didn't want to play it myself, but I was struggling to find information without spoiling the ending of things. And I just ended up watching someone else play the demo. It was a small YouTube creator, and it was very interesting. They did things completely differently from how I would do things, and I feel like even if I do the same things some of the time, by doing different things some other times, I'm going to get a different story out of it, right? So I think playing that game quickly, I'll see something that someone else might not have seen, right? And I really enjoy the joy of discovery like that. That's why I collect fossils, that's why I keep trying to improve myself. I enjoy discovery, I enjoy growth. Those are things that, even if they're not necessarily fun for me, like, they're ultimately what I want. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think fun is the be-all, end-all of life. I think living a life that you can... I don't want to say enjoy, but you're not unhappy with is probably okay, you know? It always rings in my head, but my father gave me one piece of advice before college, and he told me. He took me aside, and he grabbed my shoulders, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Live a life that you can still look yourself in the mirror every day, and you'll do alright." And I agree with that. That's what I try to do. So sometimes I push myself to do things that I might find uncomfortable, because I think ultimately that's better for me. Like, it's strange, right? Sometimes I don't feel very human at all. Like, I feel very distant from humanity, because most humans make emotional decisions. They'll decide things based on how they feel, and that's fine. I think that's very admirable, in fact. I think that's great. If you can value something, or if you can feel something, I think that's great. It's very human. It's very... I don't know, I value it. but I don't necessarily do the same thing. That's not my experience. So I do things against my feelings a lot of the time, because I think it's ultimately better. And you know what? I don't have any regrets. I don't. I can still look myself in the mirror. And more than that, I think I'm doing the best I can for myself. And I'm very happy about it. Well, happy in the sense that, you know, I'm not unhappy. And I think that's probably the best that any of us could ask for, you know? Not being unhappy is a good thing. People who want more, that's fine. But it's not really necessary for me. Yeah. I'm a very simple person, you know? I don't need the finer things in life. Um, I don't really care for it. I just like to do my own thing. It's not really that big of a deal. um, and somehow I got involved in all of this, which is a very social activity. And oh, it's been a wild ride, I can tell you that. The last year and a half or so have just been very strange times for me. Like, they seem so normal, and I never expected myself to be here, you know? I never expected it. I'm making content, I'm putting myself out there. I'm interacting with all of these people in ways that I've never done before. It was the first time I've ever used Discord for anything other than buying or selling something off of TF2. Which is very interesting to me. I don't know. Like, what's going on in my life? It's very strange. Life is chaotic and it's a whirlwind sometimes. But I'm not unhappy about it. Yeah. What else should we talk about today? I wanted to talk about... Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about the last time I recorded. So the last time I actually recorded content was back in February. Yeah, around the 25th or the 26th. I can't quite remember. I was kind of out of it at the time. um, I recorded 3 games, right? The gameplay for 3 games. One of which was for the video I just released the other day, Mouse MD. Mouse MD is not a game that I would usually play. I think it worked well as a Jekyll game. I think the more unhinged a game is for Jekyll, the better the Jekyll video is going to be. I used to really love House MD, the television show with Hugh Laurie. It used to be one of my favorites. What was the band that made the intro? Was it Mezzanine? I think it was. And it was Heartbeat or something. But I remember every time I heard that song, I would get so excited because House MD was on, and I would have to watch the episode. I really do like those procedural weekly mystery shows, and that's what it was. It was a medical weekly mystery show. And it really was just a modernization of Sherlock Holmes. Chaotic isn't necessarily bad. That's right. Chaotic can be good. Sorry for missing that. But yeah, it's right in the name, right? Holmes versus House. Get it? Home, house. Make a Holmes a house, or something like that, I guess. But, yeah, I really like Sherlock Holmes, too. Like, my name is Edward Hyde. That's obviously a nod to Victorian literature, but I don't really like Victorian literature, right? The only Victorian literature I actually enjoy is Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm talking about when I was a kid, okay? I'm old enough that there was no House MD when I was a kid. That came out during my life. You didn't just go on YouTube and get recommended 10-minute clips of every episode of House. No, that didn't happen. That didn't exist. You had to stay up. Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. You had to stay up and watch the new episodes as they aired on Fox or whatever it aired on. And, you know, it was fun times. It was fun times. Back when I could enjoy television. But I don't. I don't anymore. Which kind of adds to my isolation. Which is fine, I really did like those mystery kind of shows, though. Mostly when you saw one, it was a crime drama, right? Or is it crime comedy, I guess? Things like Psych and Monk and The Mentalist. I really like The Mentalist. But yeah, I like those little weekly mysteries where, you know, every week you get something new. It's a self-contained story in a larger arc sometimes. But you could just watch it out of order at any point, and nothing would really change except for maybe some of the actors are different characters there. House is always House. He's a grumpy old doctor with a limp and a cane and a nasally accent, or a nasally voice and a New Jersey accent. Yeah, he's always going to be House, and he's going to be solving a medical mystery. It's very... One of the appeals of that kind of content is that it's predictable, right? If you like one episode, you're gonna like the rest of the episodes. There's probably nothing in there, in any of the episodes, that you're not gonna like, unless they do something weird. Like, I remember watching a lot of Scrubs as a kid, right? And they had one musical episode towards the end, where a lady was hallucinating that everybody was singing in a musical because she had a brain aneurysm or something. And I didn't like that episode. I really didn't. I didn't think it was... It was too different, you know? Like, I expected one thing out of my show. My show. I'm possessive of it, you know? And I get something completely different from my expectations. It's not a good viewing experience for me. I like the predictability. I like knowing roughly what's going to happen. House is going to get a patient. They're going to treat them for the wrong thing. House is going to call whoever's working for him idiots because they did the wrong thing. And then he's going to treat it for the wrong thing. And then he's going to have an inane conversation with someone. Either Wilson or Cuddy or one of the people working for him. And in this inane conversation, completely unrelated to the case, he's going to have a brain blast, Jimmy Neutron style. And he's going to come up with the right answer. I think that's great. And then he's going to call everyone idiots, he's going to get them all together, and he's going to do whatever it takes to cure the patient. And usually he faces some resistance because everyone calls him insane. It's perfect. He ends up right, and everybody claps at the end. Usually. Sometimes the patient can't be cured. And that's sad, right? That's like the only unpredictable thing in those episodes of House. Whether or not the patient can be cured. And 90% of the time they can be. So I really like that. I really like that kind of content. I really like that kind of media. Very predictable. Sherlock Holmes was much the same way back in the day, if you think about it. Sherlock Holmes was, I'm going to solve a case. I'm going to keep collecting clues. I'm going to follow them. I'm going to make everyone around me look like an idiot. I'm going to insult Lestrade because it's Lestrade, and I don't respect them. So, you know, I really do think that House was a faithful adaptation of Sherlock Holmes. And it really appealed to me, especially as a kid. I'm kind of sad that, I'm kind of sad with the way House ended. I don't think it should have ended that way with, Wilson. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I don't like the ending of House. Unfortunately, I think it was very... I think it should have ended earlier, right? I think the show should have ended earlier. Like, I'm really trying not to spoil this show that ended years and years and years ago, and that you could probably find the ending on YouTube in 10 seconds. just searching for the show. I don't know. What was I talking about before this? Oh, right. The last time that I was recording. It was on the 25th or the 26th, and I did 3 recordings. One of them was Clown Hyde's The Interview, and I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from that video. I really liked that short little game. It was just interactive fiction, but it was very open-ended, very vague. You could interpret it however you wanted. But you know what I learned the most from that video? No one likes Clown Hyde. That's what I learned. No one likes Clown Hyde. And I get it. I get it. Clown Hyde is the crustiest looking PNG I have. It looks the worst. It's probably worse looking than my original model for the channel. So I understand no one likes looking at Clown Hyde. Someone sees Clown Hyde in the thumbnail, they're not going to click that video. But I don't think people even like his voice, you know? Like the accent for Clown Hyde. No one likes that either. I also get that. It's not a very warm or soothing accent. It's very harsh, very fast, very hard to understand. Looking at the metrics for the video, a lot of people clicked on the thumbnail, which was interesting. It was one of the first GIMP thumbnails I've ever made. Make a sexy, pretty anime boy version of him. Clowns are very popular, but I think the meme is about female clowns, not male clowns. Yeah, I don't think so. I've thought about it before. I've thought about getting a different model. And it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to get a different model. Like, early on, I was talking about it 2 Januaries ago, I think. I want a new model. Start a new trend. Rather not on that one. Yeah, rather not on that one. But 2 Januaries ago, I was talking about, yeah, I'm looking into new models. I might get a new one. I might do something about this old one. And I just never did. It never felt right. Like, I always intended to. I always intended to, when I grew out of this model, get a new one. A nice one. One that was properly made and had more expressions than just tired. I have more alternate outfits and alternate models than I do expressions for this model. That says something, you know? I haven't outgrown it yet. And I'm still not sure if I'm ever going to. So this might be Hyde for the rest of Hyde's life, you know? However long that may be. It's going to be a crusty clown and me and fishing waders. This input delay is really getting to me. But yeah, I always meant to get a new model, and I just never did. I'm very happy with how it looks now, in fact. I know a lot of people probably don't like the Hyde model. Some people probably do, right? I like it. I like it, that's why I picked it. I know it has problems, I know it's pretty crusty, and I know I don't have any legs, but there's something about it that I really like, the simplicity of the coloration, the stylized nature of it. I just really like it. And it's not your standard VTuber. It is anime guy-esque, right? But at the same time, it kinda isn't. It isn't your standard anime guy-esque thing. And I find that kinda charming. Most PNG and VTubers don't have legs. Yeah. I especially don't have legs. Well, you know, fishing hide's kinda different. Here, I'll show you. Let me unlock this. Fishing hide's different. He just doesn't have anything below his thighs. He does have hands. He just doesn't have legs. Don't have knees. It's like mid-thigh. I was just amputated or something. Which, you know, is better than usual Hyde. Usual Hyde doesn't have anything below his, like, thoracic cavity. So I don't know. Even Rawhide, with his gross, disgusting form, doesn't have any hands. He doesn't have anything below the thoracic cavity. Yeah, hiding my hands as always. I always wanted myself to wear white gloves, you know? So I figure when I'm usually Hyde or Jekyll, I'm wearing cartoon Mickey Mouse style white gloves. I think that's probably right. That's what feels right as Hyde and Jekyll. Very Victorian. uh, I don't know. I just feel a kinship with this model. And I know I probably shouldn't. It probably hurts me in the long run to keep using crusty models. But that's only if I care about things like views. And I only care very minimally about such things. Mostly to know what people want to watch. And apparently people do not want to watch Clown Hyde. Need Kingdom Hearts-sized boots. No Hyde feet. I don't like feet. I don't know if I've talked about this, but I really don't like feet. Feet gross me out. Feet are very strange to me. I don't like them. They look like elongated hands. And I know they're probably the opposite style of people. Yeah. There are the opposite style. Oh, you know. Yeah, okay. Okay, then you do know. I have talked about it. They're just very gross. Morphologically, physiologically. I feel physiologically revolted from them. I'm sure there are people who are the opposite, who hate hands because they're like shortened feet with longer toes. But confirmed that Fleshhide has feet? Yeah. Well, no. I'm confirmed to have toes, if I remember correctly. Specifically because I have toe hair. Yeah. And my toe hair tends to be... Maybe I shouldn't confirm that fact. But I have a lot of toe hair. Yeah. It's very gross. And I have toes. But no legs or feet, right? Just toes. I want you to imagine that at the end of my thoracic cavity, underneath wherever my suit jacket would end, all I have are toes sticking out of it. No feet, just toes. There were like plastic toys when I was growing up that looked like that. They were like penguins and they had those little flippers at the end. Could have amputated your toes and... Yeah, well... I don't think I would have amputated my toes and stuck them in a jar. But I could have done that. That's true. I think that's more of a Jekyll play. I think I would have attached my toes to the end of my thoracic cavity just to avoid having feet, right? Although, even then, like... Oh, I have a fish on. Fish on! Even then, I don't like toes either. But if I think about it, if I had to discuss what I hate feet, or what I hate about feet the most, I think what I hate most is, the elongated section of the foot, like the arch and, what the palm would be, what the, back of the hand would be. The toes are probably acceptable. Yeah, they're probably acceptable. I don't think I am. I think a lot of people hate feet. I know a lot of people on the internet love feet. I'm not one of them. But being on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think I can understand them a little bit better than the average person might, right? Because I have very strong feelings about feet. They're just very negative feelings. So I can understand someone else having very positive feelings about feet, but being the opposite of me, having very positive feelings about feet. You know? I think I can understand it. As much as I hate feet, I can understand it. Because I hate feet that much. In this one case, like usually, I will say that the old adage, the opposite of love is not hate. It is apathy. But in this one case, I will disagree with that wholeheartedly and say the opposite of love of feet is hate of feet. Bigfoot. Now hold on there. Is Bigfoot my least favorite cryptid? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think when it's on a Bigfoot, it makes more sense, right? Like for a Sasquatch to have a foot. It makes sense in my mind, and it seems less gross. Like, I look at all of those casts of supposed Bigfoot tracks, and I think to myself, that doesn't look strange. But maybe that's just because I'm not seeing the Bigfoot's foot, you know? Yeah, I know. I'm trying to reason this out in my own head, but it doesn't feel the same. Maybe it's because Bigfoot probably has furry feet, so there's a lot of hair covering up their foot. And it's not like I don't... It's not like I hate hooves or anything. I don't hate, like, talons and bird feet. I just hate human feet. So the fact that Bigfoot is something not human, potentially, feels like it's fine. Least favorite cryptid. Definitely the Chupacabra. I was gonna think about it, but then I was like, no, I don't have to think about that at all. The Chupacabra. I hate the Chupacabra. Do you know how many different descriptions there are for chupacabras? Some of them are canid, so they're like dogs and they have fur. Some of them are scaly, so they're like reptiles. There are like dozens of different descriptions for chupacabras. And that's because a chupacabra isn't a real thing. I know what you're thinking. Every cryptid isn't a real thing. That's not really what I mean. Chupacabra describes a phenomenon, right? It's like gravity. You can't directly observe gravity. And you don't usually directly observe chupacabras either. You observe the work of chupacabras. You see that goats are drained of blood and their soft flesh have been eaten, and they're left for dead, with most of the meat intact. So you don't really see the chupacabra. The chupacabra is named for what it does. The Bigfoot is named for what it is, but the chupacabra is named for what it does. There's a very big difference there, because what something does could be caused by a lot of different things. So you could have multiple different things all being called chupacabras, right? So I really hate that about the chupacabra. There could be two different organisms that would be called the chupacabra, one canid, one reptilian, and they could both be doing the same exact thing in different areas of the world. And then it would just be very confusing that they're not named something other than what they do, right? With Bigfoot, you know exactly what you're getting on the tin. They're Bigfoot. They got big feet. Yeah, easy. Loch Ness Monster? It's a Loch Ness Monster. It's a monster in Loch Ness. Very easy. Werewolf. Turns into a wolf at night. Usually full moons. Very easy. Very good. How about a man-eating tree? That one's actually, You know, when I was a kid, I enjoyed crypto biology or cryptozoology so very much that I wanted to know about other forms of crypto biology. Things like cryptobotany, if there were any monstrous plants like mandragoras and man-eating trees, and cryptomycology, which would be like mushrooms. Mothman, yeah. Mothman's good. You know what the Mothman is. It's a Mothman. Again, described for what it is, not what it does. Very good. Very good example. But yeah, surprisingly enough, there are a bunch of different stories about cryptid plants, right? There are a bunch of cryptid plants. You got mandragoras, you've got alaruns, you've got... you've got a lot of things, really. You could even include the kelpie if you wanted, because they're supposed to be like half kelp, half seaweed things, half horses. So yeah, there are definitely plants out there which would fall under the purview of cryptozoology. Well, cryptobiology largely. Not zoology because they're not animals. So I learned that pretty early on, especially about the man-eating trees. And then you could even include modern depictions like treants and things like that. Spriggans, of course. Spriggans might be more classically spirit-based than plant-based, but that's fine. You get the point. I was pretty interested in if there were any cryptid mushroom and fungi. I never found any, but there is an actual field of study called cryptomycology, and it's all about finding mushrooms and other fungi in places where they don't usually grow or live, which I think is a very interesting thing to study. Like, oh yeah, I found this really strange occurrence of this common mushroom. It was growing in the Arctic. How'd it get there? The answer? Probably humans. Maybe winds. I don't think that's... Okay, okay. I'm gonna get up on a soapbox here and say, I'm sorry. I think it's very interesting, and I think you have a cool job. I don't think it's very useful that you're looking at unusual occurrences. I can see some potential, right? Okay. Here's where that might be a useful job. Suddenly there's a food outbreak in a grain silo, and everyone's turning into cordyceps zombies. Maybe then your focus in cryptomycology could come in handy. I think that'd probably be a very practical thing to have in the case of a Last of Us crypto or a Last of Us cordyceps zombie kind of outbreak. Otherwise, I think it's just a very niche job, and it's important to have this kind of information. If mushrooms and fungi are living outside of where they're supposed to be, that usually indicates some kind of environmental change or environmental pollution, which is good to know. Like, don't get me wrong, absolutely, that's good to know. Ecology is a very fragile thing. Forests have their own microbiome, right? Soils, in fact, are very, very touchy when it comes to their microbiomes. If you ever look at a forest and you look at the way groves are kind of grown in the forest, you'll notice that trees of similar kinds grow together. You'll find a grove of aspens and probably some other evergreens. And then you'll find like groves of hardwoods or softwoods. And usually it's like a patchwork. The soil underneath those trees is directly affected by the trees on top of them. It's a give and take relationship when we're talking about forests. The soil gives the trees, and that changes the soil. And the trees give to the soil, and that changes the soil. Or changes the trees. Call it symbiosis, I guess. Something like that. But if you think about it logically, it makes perfect sense. Pine needles fall on the ground. That changes the soil composition. Pine trees take different mineral components out of the soil. That changes the soil composition. But it also changes the trees. Yeah, you can get unhealthy trees if you get infections, like Dutch elm's disease. I think that's a fungal infection. Might be viral. Not sure. But definitely part of the microbiome. And if you introduce the wrong kind of fungi or the wrong kind of virus from one soil to another, you can have disastrous results. It's not all about, like, different pests, different arthropods growing into your trees and burrowing and killing them because they're invasive species. No, the soil itself is a very fragile, delicate environment. Some more so than others, of course. There's something in the deserts in the west of the USA called desert pavement, and it's really like this crusty material made of bacteria and whatever they excrete. And a lot of tourists like to go in and break it up because it's very crusty. It's fun to crunch. I get it. It's like bubble wrap, you know? Just crunch it up. But that represents like decades and decades of bacterial growth, making their own environments that are habitable to them. And really what you're doing is destroying that environment that took decades and decades to build up. And everything that grows in this stuff, or everything alive out there requires this stuff to exist. So even if it's fun to do, please do not do that when you go in the desert. Please do not break the crust open. Yeah, and the same is true for any soil, really. Try to disturb it as little as possible. That's for the best. That'll give you a healthy environment. I don't know how I got on the topic of ecology here, but I'm glad I did. That's very important knowledge. Ecosystems are very fragile things. And they all start at the soil. They all start at the dirt. Okay, to be very clear. There's a difference between soil and dirt. Okay, dirt is typically just sediment. Soil includes an organic layer. Some of it's alive because of, because of fungi and other microbiology. Ooh. A friend of mine once had a mushroom growing in his shoulder hair trap. Oh, shower hair trap. That's very different. I've known people with mushrooms growing in their skin. It's called ringworm. Among other things, like athlete's foot. I was thinking that's what you were talking about. Ringworm. Or athlete's foot. Shower hair trap. Yeah, fungi will grow wherever they can. They're a classic decomposer. And they're very nice at what they do. If your hair in your shower drain traps a lot of dead skin cells, especially if you do a lot of exfoliation and you don't use a lot of, like, lye soap or something, yeah, you could grow mushrooms. I could absolutely see that happening. Like, dead skin is a perfect medium for mushroom growth. No, I believe you. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Dead skin, it's a great growth medium, especially when it's damp. I do have to wonder, though, like, did he never clean his shower? That would... Usually, like, you would clean out the tub or something if it gets a ring, right? And you would use some kind of cleansing agent, some kind of bleach or something. Yeah, that would blow my mind, too. I don't know how that happens. Dead skin's great, but... You'd need to have a lot of build-up, I think. It could be other things. Other... I hope I'm not thinking the right thing here. Other things about the human body could be used as a growth medium for mushrooms and fungi. Things rich in polysaccharides, for example. Yeah, I don't know. I hear you, but it's just very strange to me. That said, fungi can fruit in a matter of days, so it might have been there for like 2 days, and I could understand not knowing that. Never grown a mushroom before, intentionally or not. Me either. Me either. I wish I could. I'd love to grow mushrooms, right? Like, I know a lot of people are cultivating their own mushrooms using inoculated logs, and they're getting, like, oyster mushrooms and other nice mushrooms for their daily meals. But I've never really been confident in my mycology, you know? I've never really wanted to tempt fate by growing my own mushrooms, and even if, like, I get inoculated soil or inoculated logs, and I know the manufacturer says it's one thing, I always worry that it might be something else, something poisonous, something toxic, and I just... It's the same reason I don't eat Queen Anne's lace, you know? Any uncertainty is going to lead me to not wanting to consume whatever's growing, or whatever's been grown. New path, mushroom farmer? Absolutely not. It's one thing to poison yourself eating mushrooms that you pick in the wild or grow and not knowing that they're poisonous. And it's another to do it to other people, right? I would absolutely never give something that I didn't know for certain. And even then, I very rarely share anything that I forage with other people. I have to be 110% sure that what I forage is edible before I will give it to someone else. And in my case, that's a very rare thing. Usually just blackberries or black raspberries. Those are one of the few wild edibles that I will share with people, because they're very, very hard to mistake for anything else. I've been picking them for years, and I can't think of too many things that look like them. Yeah, I really can't. There aren't too many. Not in the USA, at least. But there are other things like sumac that I won't give to people. Not because I don't know what sumac is. Staghorn, smooth. I know sumacs pretty well. But sumacs belong to the cashew family, and some people are allergic to cashews, and you just never know. So even if you do know, sometimes I don't give it. Blueberries? There are a lot of things that kinda look like blueberries. There aren't actually any wild blueberries around where I live, so that's never been an issue. I don't really want to talk too much about what is available around me, but I will say there are some that look similar. There are wild grapes, and there are a couple things that kind of look like wild grapes around. I don't think they necessarily do look like wild grapes, but I think moonberries, I think they're called, are one of the common ones that get called a lookalike for grapes. They kind of look more like giant elderberries to me, though. So I don't know. I wouldn't give people elderberries. I wouldn't give people wild grapes. I wouldn't give people a lot of things. That's just not something that I would do. Even mints, I'm skeptical of. Yeah. It really depends on your area, though, what lookalikes exist. I once read in, I guess, a foraging guide, a foraging book written by someone, that there are no actual lookalikes out there. You're just not paying enough attention to the details if you think there are. And to some extent that's true for a lot of wild forageables. I don't know if that's a word, forageables. Wild edibles. Foraging for wild edibles. To some extent that's true. Moonberries? No. Yes, thanks Google. Not Twinkies. Twinkies are not edible. Please do not confuse those for edible things. No, it really depends on your area, though. The USA has, thankfully, very few wild edibles that could be confused for blackberries or black raspberries, so they're usually good no matter where you are in the USA. At worst, you'll get it confused with some kind of dewberry or other closely related relative of the black raspberry or blackberry. So it's not even a big deal, right? They're still edible, they're still in the same family. Still delicious. Less likely to hurt you picking them. Maybe more likely to have a snake in them. Yeah. So you do have to be careful about that. Honestly, that's usually my concern when I go picking wild berries. It's never about identifying the plant incorrectly. It's always about, is there a snake in that bush? And you know what? More often than not, you might be surprised by this, there is a snake in that bush. Or at least a spider, or some hornets. Some ground bees of some variety. I have gone to pick a berry on multiple occasions, and then I just hear a rattle in the dry brush. And then You either freeze when you hear a rattle in the dry brush, or you jump back. uh, it's very rarely anything else. Free real estate, yeah, yeah. Can't blame them, no, I can't. But at the same time, those rattlesnakes, you don't want to mess with them. I don't. So, what I usually do when I go to pick wild berries is I take a very long stick, and I lead the long stick in front of me before I go near any bush. I put the stick out one end, and I hold it very gingerly in the other end, all the way at the very tip, and I throw it there. Oh, okay. Keep. We'll release the salmon, I guess? No, I like salmon. We'll release the perch. No, still not enough? Okay, we'll release the trout. And the bass here. Is that enough? Very good. Now how do I get back? Where is... There we go. I realized we didn't go on the boat. We'll do that. We're gonna go for a little bit longer. But it's probably gonna be a shorter stream. Yeah. I do recommend taking a long stick whenever you go on any hikes near bushes. And, especially when you're going picking for wild edibles. Like, a lot of people don't think about this, but berries are a natural part of the ecology as well. And, snakes can directly eat berries, some snakes. Where should we go? But more often than not, what they'll do is... We'll go to the lake here. Sturgeon Lake. They'll go under the bushes because small rodents and other meaty organisms that are tiny that like to eat those things will end up... We'll take the yacht, please. Going to the berry bushes for the berries that fall off. Can I use that? How do I use this? Yes, launch. Ooh. What is this? Ooh, yeah, look at this. Yeah, some snakes do. Not every snake can, not every snake does. But most animals that are carnivores tend to be capable of eating things that aren't. Oh, okay. Can I look behind the boat? Or do I only really get the one look? Okay. Okay, this is not great, but this is fine. This is fine. Okay. Where is my reticle? There we go. Boat sim time. It's not a very good boat sim, no. In fact, I think we have less casting distance here than before. Yeah, anyway. Larger animals will knock berries off of a berry bush. Those will fall to the ground. Those will get eaten by things like slugs, ants, arthropods, insects, things like that. Sometimes small rodents. And those kind of things get eaten by snakes. So snakes like being there. Makes perfect sense, right? Food web, food web. And, yeah. Yeah, they do like the cover as well. They'll hide themselves waiting to ambush their prey. And they really don't want to bite you. Like, it's not their problem. It's you being a big idiot, stumbling into their territory. And they're nice enough to warn you most of the time, right? That's like the one thing I do like about rattlesnakes. They're usually nice enough to warn you. Unless they're juvenile rattlesnakes, in which case they will just bite for the Achilles. I like to have steel-toed boots whenever possible. And usually steel shank as well. Yeah. I'll get that later. That tastes awful. Oh, I cut the line. My bad. I don't know. I think it's... I think it's just very strange to want to give other people things that you're not sure about. And I would never recommend it. Even things that I am sure about. Oh yeah, absolutely. Coffee wine. uh, it's the good stuff today. Yeehaw! Tastes fantastic. I wanted to listen. You know what? No. No. I'll tell you a different story instead. Um, I made actual coffee today, which is not something I usually do, right? I very rarely make a pot of coffee. I mostly stick to instant coffee. It's very convenient, it's very affordable, and I never make too much, right? You can only ever make enough instant coffee to drink. Whoa, I know, I know. I really like Maxwell House instant coffee. I know it's cheap, I know it's disgusting, I know it's bland. It tastes like water to me, it doesn't have a flavor. And I can just quickly heat that up in a microwave and not care about what's going into my body, right? I just want the I just want the caffeine out of it. If they made coffee with nicotine in it, I wouldn't have to smoke. Yeah, I think that'd be just fine with me. But mostly stick to Maxwell House instant coffee. I like the granules, you know? I like it. It's disgusting. Yeah, you're getting it. Obviously Maxwell House will never sponsor me. I'm no Mississippi John Hurt here, you know? Although I really do enjoy Mississippi John Hurt's music. I'm no Mississippi John Hurt. They're not gonna give me a brand deal, so what's it matter? Maxwell House, for what it's worth, I really, really, really love your product. Your instant coffee is really fantastic stuff. It dissolves in the water better than most instant coffees, and it doesn't have as disgusting a flavor as most instant coffees. It tastes like nothing, in fact. You don't even know you're drinking coffee, except that you get the caffeine out of it. Yeah. It has the vague coloration of mud, none of the oily body of a typical coffee. It's very minimally viscous. It's very much like water. Very easy to drink. Um, yeah, I just really like it. I've always liked it. I was never really, well, well, you know what? I used to be that guy. You know the guy, right? I'm sure you know a guy like this, a coffee snob. I used to be one. The your coffee isn't good enough for me guy. The I only drink black coffee guy. The you better not be boiling your water for coffee guy, because that's overheating your water. You're gonna burn your beans. You're gonna scorch them. And I never really liked percolators. I guess I was ahead of the times on that one, because percolators have fallen out of favor in recent years. Uh, for the much more ecologically effective K-cup and K-pod machines, the Keurigs. Oh, that's great. Hmm. Yeah. If you really want to be ecologically sensitive about your coffee, maybe you should buy, well, I was going to say maybe you should go for instant coffee, but then I thought to myself, you could have uh, a K-cup coffee making thing, a Keurig, and you could just have one of those reusable pods. I guess that would probably be fine. I don't actually care. If you want to strangle all the world's dolphins in soda plastic rings, like the six-pack rings, go ahead. It's not gonna hurt me. I don't care. A lot of people use coffee grounds and compost. Yeah, you can do that. I wouldn't recommend using coffee grounds right in your soil. A lot of people do that, and I don't recommend that. But in a compost pile, let that go for 6 months to a year with the occasional turning. Probably 2 years, depending on the grind of the coffee. You'll have a fantastic, slightly acidic soil, depending on the other compost ingredients you throw in there. That's one of the nice things about coffee, especially if it's a Colombian blend. Sumatran blends tend to be lower in acids, so you do have to be careful of that. I do recommend checking the pH of any compost that you use in your garden beds, and making sure that it's optimal for the plants that you're growing in your garden. A lot of people fail that one basic step and end up not growing anything in their gardens. Don't know from experience or anything. I've only explained that to certain people a couple dozen times, and they still do it. I'm one of those strange people. I collect old books. Yes, printed media. I own it. I have bookshelves. I know, it's a luxury. Think about all the space I waste having actual printed books. But I do that. I collect old books, and some of them happen to be about organic farming methods from the 1960s. And they're talking about these things that are only now making it into modern big agriculture because they're cheaper. They're cheap enough. We have all this food waste. Why don't we turn it into compost and then sell it at a profit? That's genius. GDP goes up. Yeah, I know. But it's also good for the soil. Because big agribusiness has been stripping the soils of all nutrients, and thus your food of all nutrients for generations now. The food you buy in the store is something like 50 to 70% less nutritious than what it used to be. Line go up. That's right. um, that's not political. That's just very scary to me. That food is not even food anymore. I don't think that's politics. I'm gonna say that. That's me telling you about farming. Modern farming practices and soils. Yeah, that's not political. That's just the science of agriculture, which I really like, by the way. I used to do some soil science. I'm one of those what you call a nerd that did nerd science in college, and my nerd science included soil sciences, with a bent towards agriculture. That was one of my electives. Have you ever heard of a more boring sounding class than soils sciences? And yet it was one of my favorite classes. I learned so much in that class that I just never thought about. And I really learned the importance of soils and microbiomes in the soil. You had no idea that I was a nerd? Yeah, I know. I hide it so well. Mind blown. He isn't just a naive idiot. He's only a naive idiot some of the time. Sometime he's only playing a naive idiot. But yeah. I really like soil science, and despite how boring the the textbook was, there's actually a lot to learn about soils. um, there are a bunch of different classifications for major soil groups. Some are only found in certain environments. It doesn't matter. The major thing is that not all soil is made equally, right? And some soil will support some things and other soils will not. So if you ever intend to garden, please make sure that you get yourself a soil test kit and you test your own soil and determine what kind of additives you actually need. Because by all means, if you oversaturate a soil in certain nutrients or minerals or whatever else, certain fertilizers, you're going to have unhealthy plants. If your soils are devoid of those things, you're going to have unhealthy plants. And in the rare case that you're just spot on, in a couple of generations, you're not going to have healthy plants. So you got to know these things, and you got to monitor them probably at least once every growing season. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. And there are plenty of resources out there nowadays. You don't have to go to the library and get a big, thick textbook listing all of these different plant cultivars and their optimal growing conditions. You can get that online. They have big tables on usually seed selling sites, right? So if you want to buy in bulk and grow in bulk, you want to go start your own farm, I highly recommend doing a soil map. Here in the USA, our soil maps come from the Great Depression, back in the day when there was no work and no one had any money. The government would just hire people to do soil surveys, and they would create these large maps of different soil types. And those are still used to this very day, because we've never been able to get cheaper labor to do it. So all of our soil data that doesn't come from like independent people doing their own testing to see how it's changed over the years, or scientists doing reclamation work or something like that, comes from these 1920s soil surveys. But those are all available to you for free online, even. You can go online and go to the USGS website, US Geological Survey, and download these maps if you want to. I think they come with little overlays for Google Maps. I don't know if they have any for Apple Maps. I hope not. But you can get them for Google Maps, and they're very useful things. So if you don't want to do soil testing, and you feel like 1920s is recent enough for your own gardening needs, it isn't. You can just take a best guess using the soil surveys that were conducted in the 1920s. Very useful stuff. Like, I get it. We can't really do that nowadays. No one's going to do soil surveying for like a quarter a day. That stuff's hard work. You know? Mapping, surveying, it's very hard work. And you have to be very precise. I know it's government work, but you have to be very precise about it, because they're meaningful maps. And really, we ought to be doing more things like that, but we don't. Here's another neat resource that Americans, USA citizens have. You can go to the USGS and get mineral survey reports as well. You can get reports of all the economic, sub-economic, and non-economic. I can't remember the third one. Uneconomic, maybe. All of the different reserves, or all of the resources here in the USA. All of the copper reserves have been estimated at either marketable prices or below marketable prices, or close to marketable prices. All of the tungsten reserves, all of the iron reserves, all of the gold reserves, they're estimated. We know. We've known how much there is in the USA, and every year we write reports about them. And those go out to the citizens for free if you want. I think you can buy them in print, but I think they're free online. They used to be. I don't know if they still are, but they used to be free online. Every year they would update them because the market prices would change. So sub-economic resources would become economic, and you would know what would be worth drilling for or prospecting for. And basically, we know what's in our national boundaries. That don't make line go up directly. No, but it can. It can help the line go up. So it might not go up directly, but I think these are neat resources for the average person to be able to have, you know? Like, your tax dollars are paying for it. You might as well go look at it. Don't you want to know how much oil our country has, or how much gold our country has? Directly, yeah, directly. It makes knowledge go up, though, and knowledge make line go up. That's what happens. That's how technology works. I don't know. I think people just aren't using these resources because, A, they're kind of boring, but B, they mostly just don't know they exist. Yeah, we don't do those surveys anymore because, yeah, okay, fair. I really just think we don't do those surveys because no one would be willing to do the work. The dollars would go up. They would, because you would have people working who might not otherwise be working. So GDP would go up over what it would be if they weren't working. You understand, right? That's sad. I don't think it would happen, because there is a lot of soil in the USA. The USA is a very large country, and you've got to include things like, well, you've got all of Alaska now, which you're not going to map. No one's going to do a soil survey for Alaska, I'm sorry. No one's going to go up there and say, oh yeah, this is a Frigisol. It's a slightly permanently frozen, almost permanently frozen, jelly-like soil. That when it thaws out, turns into pretty much quicksand. Yeah, I don't know. Gelisols, Frigisols, I can't remember. They have weird names, right? Yes, Alaska is a big, chunky ice state. And it's getting less chunky and less icy every single day. So maybe it'll be usable, and maybe we'll be able to do soil surveys eventually, but for the most part right now, we can't. So, hopefully we'll fix that problem soon. That'd be real nice. If we could get rid of some of that ice up there. I'm doing my part, you know? I'm using a bunch of oil and, burning things, like styrofoam. I like burning styrofoam. Yeah. Please do not burn styrofoam. It's bad for you. I have to say that. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I do have to say that. Please do not burn styrofoam. I don't even know if they make styrofoam anymore. You know? Styrofoam's a great insulator, right? And I really like styrofoam as a material. It's why it was used so widely. Because it's very useful as an insulator. What? Why the sigh? What did I say? Styrofoam is great. Like, yeah, don't put a Big Mac in styrofoam. Yeah. People still do. I'll tell you the one place I do still see styrofoam is live bait shops, for whatever reason, have like the monopoly on styrofoam containers. Because live bait needs to be kept cool for the most part. Whether it be earthworms or minnows or whatever else, live bait needs to be kept cool. Because they're alive. You don't want them overheating. Huh? What? Have you never gone to a bait shop before? Maybe that's not a thing elsewhere. I have to think about that. Have I ever seen a bait shop outside of the rural areas? Maybe not. Okay, I'll explain what a bait shop is. No? Very strange, okay. Basically in rural parts of the USA, there are these little, basically house-like stores, or maybe shed-like stores. They don't usually have proper buildings unless you go to somewhere like the Bass Pro Shops or things like that. But I'm talking about the local bait shops, right? I'm not talking about the chain bait shops. The small ones. When I was growing up, about 5 miles down the road from me, there was a little family-owned bait shop. And it was just the dude's house. Like, the first floor of his house had all of the bait, the lures, fishing line, fishing rods. He had a little aquarium set up for minnows. He had this, I guess you would call it a terrarium, full of earthworms. And he had things full of grubs and crickets. Just different kinds of live baits and lures. Fishing needs. And he also had a fishing license printer. So that was the important thing. That you could get a fishing license at the bait shop. But, yeah, they're basically just small little structures. They're not typically Bass Pro Shops. Those things are rare in America, the bigger chain places. Because most people who fish are fishing rurally, you know? Fishing recreational waters requires you to kind of have recreational waters. Oh yeah. I don't think he cared how it smelled. The dude was... I should probably not say anything, because I don't have much nice to say. He was a very nice old man. I don't think the smell would have bothered him. I think other smells would have been just as strong. 9 times out of 10, whenever I go into a bait shop, it's usually run by someone who's drinking beer behind the counter. I don't know if that's legal. I don't really care. That they sell me what I need for cheap, and that's good enough for me. But yeah, usually they have little styrofoam boxes that they put things like earthworms in, especially waxworms and grubs. That tracks. Yeah, yeah, it does track. Good people. Like they're very nice people generally. They do what they love. You know. I kind of envy that. Doing a job they love, drinking beer on the job. Maybe that is the job they love, drinking beer. And they're just getting paid to sit there while they're doing their job. Right? Oops. Yeah, we'll keep that. I think the boat's rocking a little bit. Can I cast? Please? Where can I cast? Why can't I cast? Oh, B button. Gotcha. But yeah, they have these little square, kind of rounded edged boxes made of styrofoam. Like, you used to see it a lot when you would order Big Macs from McDonald's. They would come in the styrofoam box. Any kind of larger hamburger, really. And I remember seeing those all over the roadways when I was younger. In recent years, McDonald's does not use styrofoam. They use cardboard, and the cardboard gets so soggy from all of the oil that I just don't know anymore. You know, I can't remember the last time I had a McDonald's hamburger. Anything from McDonald's? I can't remember. It's been so long. Vaguely remember the styrofoam? Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty young, too. But I do remember seeing styrofoam boxes, which is very different, right? Styrofoam, as we all know, is not very quick to degrade. That's, why we stopped using it. So the styrofoam boxes that I would see driving along where I lived as a kid, could have been there for decades. And they probably were. They're like cigarette filters. They just last forever in the environment. And you can find them decades and decades later. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. So what if a bird chokes on one of those cigarette filters? You know what? Natural selection. Mother Nature wanted cigarette filters and styrofoam, and we gave it to her. We gave it to her just like she wanted. I can't feel bad about it. I'm sorry. Like, if it weren't us, something else would have killed that bird. Or that dolphin. Or those turtles. I don't really like the excuse of, well, it was man-made, therefore... I don't like that. I think there are better arguments to be made. Like, maybe you should just not kill things if you don't want to kill things. Arguing about artificial materials, though, I don't really like that argument. I don't think that's a good one. I think all artificial materials, as we would call them, are natural materials because they're made of natural things, made by nature itself. Humans. Humans are nature. I think the distinction is artificial. That's the only artificial thing there. Styrofoam is just as natural as rhyolite is. It's a product of nature. Just very complicated nature, in the sense that humans are very complicated in what they do with nature. Yeah, I think humans put too much of a distinction between themselves and the environment, between the rest of nature. Really, that's probably our biggest problem as a species, in my opinion. I think humans do have this sort of arrogance that humanity is somehow different from the other animals or different from nature. We're the ones locking ourselves out of it, right? Like, the door is wide open, and we're closing it on our own faces. I remember reading Szymborska's poetry. Szymborska was a poet, I think she was Polish, somewhere around the end of World War II she started writing, and I have no idea when she died, probably the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Anyway, she did a lot of poetry about things like man's place in the world, man's place against nature. Conversations with a Stone is one of my favorite poems by her, and I really think that summarizes what the human condition is all about. I don't want to spoil too much about the poem, but I will say this much. It's about a scientist, presumably, trying to analyze a stone, and the stone is having a conversation back, saying that even if you crumble me into a powder and examine the powder, or do this and that with me, you still won't understand me. So, I think that's pretty accurate. Humans do all of these things to keep ourselves out of nature, to make our species different from nature. And when in reality, I think we really are just nature. We can be the stone, we can understand the stone just as easily as we can't. And it's really just our own mindsets, our own arrogance and hubris that say that we're not. And it's a matter of perspective, I think. There's a culture of treating human-created technologies like even electronics, I think, are natural, right? I've never seen an unnatural technology. Maybe they exist. Technologies that are unnatural, they don't follow the laws of nature, they aren't made of natural materials. Maybe they exist. They probably do. Thinking about it, like, maybe there are materials in nature, like, very heavy elements. Things that would require, I guess, truly artificial means to produce. They might exist. Maybe they exist in alien spacecraft. They might. But as far as I know, everything that we have produced is theoretically possible to produce in nature so far. So, saying it's unnatural just because a human hand made it, when the human hand is itself a product of nature, just seems utterly ridiculous to me. Maybe I'm the strange one, I don't know. It's quite possible. I think we're probably going to end it here for the day. I had a lot of fun. I didn't get to finish my story about the coffee, but that's okay too. Let's just say that I had very nice coffee. It was Sumatran single source, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah. Had a great time. I hope you all did too. But for now, nice talking. Yes, it always is. Right. I should be very clear about that. I'm gonna try and keep making content for as long as I can. I know we talked about some heavy stuff early on, but yeah, I don't want to quit yet. I'm not graduating, I'm not quitting. I will continue on, and I will keep trying to improve and enjoy what I do. Yeah. There may be some changes. There are gonna be some changes. But I will keep trying, because I think it's worth it. I really do. So yeah, thank you for joining me today. It was a pleasure. Always is. Even when I don't feel like talking, I feel like it's worthwhile. I always do. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. It was great to be here. Yes. But we're going to have to end it here for tonight. I will see you all again next time. Hide out. Yeah, hide out. He needs to smoke. See ya.